gay mountain lions. Do I have your attention? Good. Then we shall begin. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lena. I love talking about books, and I also love talking about topics that other people might find stressful, like the climate crisis and fast fashion and what is going on in the news. However, I also wrote a book about how not to burn out, and one of the ways I love not burning out is reading books that counteract those activities, not to hide from those topics or those situations, but to make sure there is also room for whimsy and pause and replenishment. Because what I can tell you about those social media apps is that they will not balance your brain for you. They will charge it with a certain amount of charge. Some of those charges are created by truths that we need to know about and we need to act on. But there isn't an inbuilt balancing system that is going to do that for your brain. You have to do that for yourself. So if you are going to use these apps and open them, you also need to get yourself to a bookshop or a library and put some heavy cozy on the other side of the scale. So I thought today I would sit in my shed and I would talk to you about some of the books that have been doing that for me recently, and I would love if you shared your own ones in the comments below. Now, I won't be a complete tease and keep that gay mountain lion comment from you for the whole video, so let me show you the first book that I have been loving. This is Open Throat by Henry Hoke, and it is a mere 156 pages long, and lots of the pages only have a few words on them. This is a book that I read in 2 very, very short sittings. Let me read the blurb. Just let me read the blurb. Okay. A queer and dangerously hungry mountain lion lives under the drought-devastated land under the Hollywood sign in LA. Lonely and fascinated by humanity's foibles, the lion spends their days protecting a nearby homeless encampment, observing hikers complain about their trauma, and in quiet moments grappling with the complexities of their gender identity, memories of a vicious father, and the indignities of sentience. Yes, that's it. That's the blurb. This is one of the strangest, like, I don't have a comp title for this book. Like, I don't have another book to be like, it's like this book. This is a book in its own genre, all alone. The fact that it's told from the point of view of a mountain lion, and I felt so immersed in the mountain lion's head. And even though the mountain lion was going through different things were happening to the mountain lion, there were stresses in his life, there were memories that he would rather forget. I can't think of something more escapist than being lost in the brain of an animal who doesn't understand what money is, who thinks LA is called Elay, because that's all he overhears from other people talking about it, and who he befriends along the way. There's also a very wholesome friendship between the lion and somebody in this book. It's probably going to be one of the most literary books I read this year, but also one of the easiest to read. And I can't tell you how small the meeting of that Venn diagram is and how well Henry Hoke walked that line. This is a book that I had not heard of before. I walked into a small bookshop called Egghead Books when I was over in Canada and discovered it, and that is the joy of a small indie bookshop. You just get served things that you just wouldn't anywhere else, and I'm so glad I picked this up, and I really think you should too. Speaking of anthropomorphic animals, we're going to something a little bit more traditional. I have never read, and this is, do you know what I mean? This is my excuse for never having read The Wind in the Willows before the ripe age of 35, and that is my library didn't have it. That's it. I feel like when you're a kid, the books that you own, because I had a small amount of books that I owned in my house, were like the only books that existed, and if there were any other books in the world, they were the books that my library had. So I read some of the books that my library had several times. Didn't occur to me that it could have been part of a series. I didn't think, oh, what are the other books that this author has written? I was just like, these are the only books that Dickens Smith has written, so they're the only ones I'm going to read. And I just never read The Wind in the Willows. It never came across me as a child, and often when a children's book doesn't get placed on your lap as a kid, you don't go and seek it out as an adult, and I think that's a huge error on our part. As part of my Patreon, the Gumption Club, we have a Discord and we're doing a read along at the moment for the summer. Yes, September is still summer in my mind. We definitely need this read along during September. We're doing a read along where we're reading children's classics, and they can either be ones that are like we're rereading because we just love them and they feel cozy, or they're ones that we missed out on as children. So I picked up In the Wind and the Willows because Craig was reading it and snorting next to me in bed when we were reading before we went to sleep, and he'd always be like reading me out lines from it, and I was like, what the hell is this book? I thought this was just like, I didn't think it was going to be as profoundly well written or just generally profound as I'm just astounded at how good this book is. Like, I actually can't believe it. It's better than The Wizard of Oz, and I'm a wicked stan, but I recently reread The Wizard of Oz, and while it's a cultural artifact and like an important moment in history, I think we can all agree that it's not a very good book. This, however, has the audacity to not only tackle friendships and summer afternoons rowing around with your friends and making little picnics with little mushroom pies, but also existential dread, intrinsic links between people and what we owe to each other, the primal urge for things that might not be best for us, and whether it's up to us to drag ourselves out of that, or whether that's just like an inherent part of us. Like, this is the first moment that this mole sees a body of water ever in his life. He thought his happiness was complete when, as he meandered aimlessly along, suddenly he stood by the edge of a full-fed river. Never in his life had he seen a river before, this sleek, sinuous, full-bodied animal, chasing and chuckling, gripping things with a gurgle and leaving them with a laugh, to fling itself on fresh playmates that shook themselves free and were caught and held again. All this was a shake and a shiver, the glints and gleams and sparkles, rustle and swirl, chatter and bubble. The mole was bewitched, entranced, fascinated. By the side of the river he trotted as one trots when one is very small, by the side of a man, who holds one spellbound by exciting stories. And when tired at last, he sat on the bank while the river still chattered along to him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world, sent from the heart of the earth to be told at last to the insatiable sea. Are you kidding? Enough said. Enough said. As part of that read along, I've also been making my way through a really cute little set of books that Craig bought for me for my birthday. Get a load of this. They're smaller than my face. They're actually kind of I haven't got my phone with me. They're like the size of a phone to hold. There's 3 of them. Heidi, A Little Princess, and Anne of Green Gables. And they all fit in this tiny little space because they've got like really thin Bible pages, but you read them this way, so you're not reading these tiny pages. You feel like you're reading an almost normal size book when you're holding it. You look a bit weird, but you feel like you're reading a normal size book, but it's tiny and you can keep it like in your wallet probably. I'm just absolutely obsessed with this format, and I need more publishers to come out with books in this format. The first one I read was Anne of Green Gables, but I didn't actually end up reading this edition because basically one of my best friends in the world is Ariel Bissett. You might know her. She also has a YouTube channel, and me and my other friend Claire were both going over to Canada for her wedding, and I saw this thing on Instagram and thought it was really fun to copy, where like we both secretly read her favourite book. Like we read the same edition of Anne of Green Gables that had lots of room for scribbles and margins and highlighting, and we both read the book and made our own notes on the copy of Anne of Green Gables, which is Ariel's favourite book, and we gave it to her as a wedding present. So she's going to get to reread her favourite book ever, but with both of our notes. And we're both British and we don't know much about like Canadian history and literature, and she's always like said to us like it's her favourite book, and we've both said, oh yeah, we'll get around to it, and we never have. So that was our little gift to her, his little clip of us giving it to her. She was very mosh.
Oh my god, that is so beautiful. So, we have both read this thing and we've annotated it for you with all of our thoughts.
I feel like crying.
We're very organized. I do feel like crying. I'm spiritually already on the edge. This has pushed me further.
So I absolutely bloody loved Anne of Green Gables. It's going to be a massive comfort read for me. I thought this was just going to be like another old classic orphan story, and it is that to a certain extent, but it's also different because I think that Anne has this really imperfect personality where she is quite self-involved and self-indulgent, and like she makes a lot of mistakes, and she's not like the Oliver Twist of the situation where things just like happen to her and she is victimized and then she's like finally vindicated and looked after. Like she is like a very imperfect child, but I also absolutely adore her and relate to her in so many ways. And I just think having such a complex children's character in a classic children's book is hard to stumble upon in this at this degree of goodness. And it was just so well written as well. I can't believe that the most famous quote that I have known from Anne of Green Gables is a world without Octobers is nothing. Can you imagine a world without Octobers? It's an interesting line, but I was highlighting so much stuff in this book that I can't believe aren't all on coasters. Like, that is probably the most boring of all the good quotes in Anne of Green Gables. It's so beautifully written. Cannot believe it. Will definitely be returning, and we'll probably read the rest in the series as well. I'm currently reading Heidi, and I'm having a great time with it. It's definitely not the same writing style as Anne of Green Gables. It doesn't have that intricate, like very atmospheric writing style, but it is like I'm really gripped. Like, I need to know what happens to Heidi, and I love that it's in translation and it's like giving me a little look into another culture's classic books as well. And then I've never read Little Princess, and I've never seen it either, so I'll be doing that too. Back to the grown-up books. I was sent a proof of this book, In Love with Love, which is a book of essays about the persistence and joy of romantic fiction by Ella Rishbrigger of Midnight Chicken fame. One of my favourite books of all time. You've heard me talk about Midnight Chicken before. So I was absolutely rapt to read this, and I read it on the plane over, and it was the best. It was actually really funny because I was sitting next to this French grandma who was flying over to see her grandchildren, and she didn't speak much English, and I barely speak a word of French, but we basically ended up having a bit of a race. She realised that I was reading a book about love and she was reading a romance book, so we had a race on the plane to see who could read the most pages. I won, of course, but we'd like keep checking in with each other about what we were reading. It was really sweet. So I have like a lovely memory of reading this as well, but it was funny because I could tell that she kept looking over at me because I kept stopping reading the book to pick up my highlighter, and I just had to keep highlighting stuff because there's so much good stuff in here. Maybe I'll make a different video of my thoughts on this book once it's out. I'm going to try and be a good reviewer and not read from the proof because it's not technically supposed to, because it's an uncorrected proof and the author might want to change things before it goes into like permanent record forever. But I will read to you the blurb. Cowboys and aliens, dukes and dancers, power dynamics, death and domesticity, vampires and veterans, trad wives and single dads and sisters and small town politics, private jets and princes and horses, hopes and dreams and fears, and so on, and so much kissing. This is a love letter to romantic fiction, but it's also a book about creativity and creation and the job of art in this crazy old world. Why do we read and why do we write? What makes some books last forever and others vanish from memory? How do we love when the world is falling apart? And what does it mean that love is the only subject of which we never seem to tire? So this is kind of part literary criticism, part just like passion project. Ella loves romantic fiction and has read a shit ton of it. So we hear about her thoughts on the idea of the hot billionaire and why we find that so intriguing in fiction. If it's okay if like genres repeat themselves, and like how much trope culture plays into the role of comfort in our lives, how feminism intersects with potentially problematic fantasies and how we reconcile that, the writers that have queered the rom-com and how important that is for culture, why our love for Twilight is kind of also about how repressed our longing can be and how we all kind of want what will kill us ultimately on some level. It's just one of the most brilliant essay collections I've ever read, and it's in the kind of tone of voice that I think you will love if you like my videos. Like, it's very much like creative and comforting, as well as the more intellectual side of things. Like it's a very good mix of those, if I were to be so bold. But yeah, always a fan of Ella Rishberger's writing, and this is coming out in November. So you'll have to pre-order it if you want to read it, but this is such a comfort read, and I think it's like curling up with this in the winter months. Like, and I got some good recommendations for more romantic fiction to read, because admittedly I haven't read that much. Well, I thought I had, and then I realised how much she has read, and I was like, I haven't even touched the surface. I haven't even scraped the sides. Finally, I bought Valentine in Montreal by Heather O'Neill when I was in Canada, because I wanted to read a Canadian author who'd written a book set in Canada while I was in Canada, and those books are easiest to get hold of, believe it or not, when you're in Canada. This book is really unusual because it's inspired by the serialized novels of Charles Dickens, because like he wrote, if you didn't know, he wrote a lot of his novels in magazines, and he hadn't finished them by the time some of the chapters came out. So he was writing as the readers were reading, and also kind of responding to how everybody was responding to his work, if that makes sense. So this is a compendium novel that was published in the Gazette in Montreal, and it feels that way. And like, not even in a bad way. It feels like you are inside the mind of one of your best friends who knows you really well, but is also making up a story to entertain you. But you can tell that like they kind of don't quite know the ending yet, and they keep kind of changing their mind about the direction the story might go in. But that's kind of part of the fun. Is like knowing that they're also making it up, kind of like when you go to an improv show and you know that like it's like part of the reason it's funny is because you can see them creating it in real time in front of you. Does that make any sense? So this is about a woman who, it kind of reminds me of a convenience store woman at the beginning. Like it's about a woman who works in a convenience store, but like in the underground of Montreal, in the subway, and she sees a woman on another platform that looks exactly like her, and she has to decide what to do about it. And she's a very timid person. It also kind of reminded me of Amelie, in that she's a very timid, insular person who has been raised by her grandma, who didn't like her exploring or doing very much, but she has this hunger for the world, and she has to decide how much outside of her comfort zone she's going to go to find out why she has like a twin that keeps wandering around the metro. It's so inventive, and it's accompanied by lots of like weird and wonderful illustrations, and it will really take you outside of yourself if you're sick of being inside yourself. So that was like I really enjoyed reading it, and I thought it was like a really a really unusual novel. And I think sometimes when you're trying to just escape out of your own brain, or try and find that place where your worries are on ice a little bit, reading something a little strange, a little something that your brain isn't expecting, means that you can engage the whole of it and really like require your imagination to immerse itself, rather than like also having like a different monologue going on in your brain while you're reading, because I've been there. It happens. Anyway, the next one on my to read list that I think will give me the same kind of feeling that these books have is Hisashi Kashiwai's The Restaurant of Lost Recipes. This is about a tucked away diner in Tokyo that is run by a father-daughter duo who serve more than just mouth-watering feasts. The pair have reinvented themselves as food detectives, offering a service that goes beyond the traditional dining. Through their culinary sleuthing, they reconstruct beloved dishes from the memories of their customers, creating a connection to cherish moments from the past. Sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. I'm ready. I want it. I want it now. Let me know if you read it and what you thought. It's translated from Japanese by Jessie Kirkwood, and I'm looking to read more translations this year. I don't think I've read as many as I usually do, so I'm really excited to dig into this one. And I think autumn is the perfect time of year. Can you not just tell? I feel like if there is a little bit of smoke on the cover and a cat asleep somewhere, then it means it's an autumnal read. So I'm very excited about that one. Let me know what you're reading. As always, I am always buddy reading in the Gumption Club, my Patreon group, with my patrons. So if you are interested in buddy reading either some children's classics with us, that would be really cute if you wanted to join us. I'll leave the links below on how to join. Or just find fellow readers to chat about the books you've already read, because there's plenty of that going on in our Discord. Thank you so much to them for making these videos possible, meaning that this video didn't have to have a sponsor. I really hope that you are not burning yourself out and causing yourself to disengage with the world by making sure that you take time to put your brain on ice a little bit and read something that is going to help you return to the world with more vigor and gumption than you had before. If you like this video, I've got a feeling that you might get on with one of these videos. Frog Snog out.